Alright guys, welcome back. So today we're just going over a really simple, quick tutorial on how to make a basic song or music in Ableton Live. First thing you want to start out with is a drum kit, because you want to figure out how fast is the song going to be. Even if later on you change it to be without drums at all, like you don't have to have drums in this, it's good to have a drum kit always there playing to kind of make sure that it's keeping the speed and that you can kind of play along with. So first thing we want to figure out how fast should the song be. This default 120 means 120 beats per minute, and that's pretty fast, so we may want it to be slower. So to figure out, hey, how fast do we want the song, we first need to find a drum kit that we like. Also, as you go through to listen to these different drum kits to try them out, make sure you have the little blue headphone icon turned on so you can see that. Also, before I forget, if you can't hear audio coming out of Ableton Live, but you can hear it coming out of your normal speakers like down here, oops, I gotta change that. So if you can hear audio coming out there, but when you go to try and play one of these drum kits or listen to something like this, if you can't hear audio, you just go to Options, Preferences, and over here on the left, this is the important one, you go to the Audio tab, and where it says Driver Type, you want this on MME/DirectX, and then you want the output device, which is your speakers or headphones, you want to select them here, and usually it'll say headphones or speakers. Keep in mind you have to have your headphones plugged in before you open up Ableton Live so that they're recognized in here. But sometimes, even though you have your headphones plugged in, you actually select speakers to hear audio. So just basically select these different things and then click on a drum sound to see if the sound comes out. For me, because I'm on an advanced system here, I'm actually this different driver type, but for you guys it'll be MME/DirectX. So now I can hear my drum kits, so you guys can go through and sample all these drum kits. Keep in mind, again, I really don't want you guys using drum kits that have instrument sounds in it. You really just want to use the main hits of a drum kit instead of ones that might have a bunch of weird sounds in them or instruments. So like, yeah, this one, how it has all these little notes and instruments, we don't want that. And the reason being is that you then have to figure out what notes are they playing that I can match along with it. And that's kind of an annoying process. So usually when you use a drum kit, just use the drum hits only. So when you find one that you like, you basically just drag it into a MIDI slot. Remember, to repeat, there are two types of tracks in Ableton. MIDI, which is just the information on what notes you're playing and how hard to play it. And the cool part with MIDI is you can actually change the instrument as many times as you want. You can copy the notes. You can edit the notes in the music later. Audio is basically a pre-recorded audio clip, such as MP3 or a .wav file, something that you really can't change all that much. And so like if I recorded with the microphone into this computer right now, it would go into an audio clip. So audio is for recording pretty much with microphones or using samples that have been pre-recorded from someone else. MIDI is for making your own music from scratch and then having that music be played through the software instruments that we have in here. So again, drum kit, we're going to drag this onto a blank MIDI track. Also, if you ever just drag out into this blank space over here, guys, it will add a MIDI track automatically. And so now, if we can see all these settings down here, let me see if I can make this look. I don't like the way this looks. I'm going to make the text a little bit smaller. Yeah, that's better. Can you guys still see that okay?
Yeah.
Was it a lot better the other way?
No, it's fine.
Okay, you sure? All right. Anyways, so pretty much to start putting in some drum hits and find out, hey, how fast is this song going to be, you double click in a blank slot here and you can click and drag this up. Anything in Ableton is pretty much movable, so you can hover over the sides of things and resize them how you want. But basically down here, just like before, you got to make sure the headphone is turned on to blue so that I can hear. And this thing right here is called the piano roll. It literally represents a piano just turned up on its side, and in this case it's showing us all the different drum hits that we have in this kit. To see what they sound like, you just click on them. Ooh, I like that. Anyways, pretty much with the drum kit you really just need 3 ingredients, but you can do as much as you want, but usually you just need a kick, a snare, or a clap. Snare and a clap kind of both fill the same purpose. and then you usually want a hi-hat or something that kind of has a t-t-t sound. So here's a hi-hat, also the shake, that would work too. But those three things are really all you need to make a drum kit sound. Before I forget. Okay, anyways, so we double clicked in our blank spot right here, and now we need to draw in a kit. Notice how there's 4 main areas here in this loop. It's gonna loop when it gets to the end of this 4th one right here. And you can see this dark gray to light gray to dark gray, light gray. Those are kind of split up into the main areas of the beat. And so now if we want to start it out, usually start out with a kick on the kick drum. So double click in one of these blank slots to draw in a note. And if I want to draw in maybe a kick at the beginning of each of these columns, you see how that works? And now let's click the play button to see how fast this is going to sound. And then notice it repeats over and over. If I go here up to the tempo, the 120, if I change this, listen to how fast it can go. Click and drag up. And if I click and drag down back below what we were at in the beginning, that's a little more what I want. And you can change things up. So if I wanted maybe like a double kick right here, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can change this on the fly. I mean, yeah. And let's do a snare in now. So notice how I double clicked and drew these snares in, and I have them skip. So one hits right here in the beginning of this column, space, and then this one comes back. So if I hit play, so just like that, you can hear the drum kit coming together, and it's really simple. Again, kick, a snare / clap, and in fact, maybe I'll have a clap hit on the second one. And then, of course, you want a little sound, which is pretty much either a hi-hat or a shaker. So let's draw in some of these. Let's play this and see what it sounds like. Notice how you can click and just drag these to move them and try something else out. So let's see with this one. That's all right. And again, this is kind of a hip-hop sound we're doing now, but the point is you could even just have a couple of these hitting just to kind of give you that rhythm, so when you go to play your music, you kind of have something to play along with. And then you could even delete your drum kit after, because you guys are making video game music, and in that, a lot of times you don't want it to necessarily sound like just a beat or a song. You kind of want it more where it feels like kind of like a movie soundtrack, right? So, point being, we've got our drums drawn in. Now let's find an instrument that we want to do. Instruments are on the left here, and the main area you guys want to mess with is this instrument rack. That's where all the instruments are. So you go in there, open it up by clicking, and you've got all these different categories. For game soundtracks, ambient and evolving might be a good category because it kind of means kind of almost like spacey sounds, not really just like a typical guitar or piano. It's kind of more of like, you know, well, let's find out. Let's open up ambient and evolving, and let's click on some of these to hear what they sound like. See, that kind of sound, like something kind of, you know, sound like it sounds like a movie soundtrack. Birth of the Multiverse. So for those of you doing like zombie games, you know, something like this, that kind of stuff would be really good for just kind of making it sound creepy, right? Let's try this one. Let's drag it onto a blank MIDI slot or a blank spot out here. And because we don't have any other samples or instruments we already have in here, we can choose what notes we want to play. For you guys figuring out what notes to play, I mean, honestly, a lot of you guys can just do it by ear, like just figure out what sounds good and what doesn't. But there is, if you learn just an ounce of music theory, it really makes coming up with songs super easy. It's almost like cheating. And so if I want to figure out what notes I should do, basically I can go to Google and type in popular chord progressions. A chord progression is basically the different notes that are played throughout a song. A chord is technically 2 or more notes that are played at the same time. So chord progression, every song you guys like out there, it pretty much has a chord progression, which is a cycle of these notes that it goes through and repeats, kind of like a loop, right? And so if you type in popular chord progressions, you can find some of these out. Also, if you guys know for sure, hey, I want a kind of a creepy sounding song, you know, scary, or I want this to be a happy, like Mario style song, you can also even type in, let's type in scary chord progressions. Scary chord progressions. Yeah, hold on. Actually, you know what? For this first one, I just want to stick with like more like standard. Like, let's type in, I don't know, sad chord progressions. And right here, it's going to give us different chords. So like right here, 10 emotional and sad chord progressions you should know. Of course it's blocked. The saddest chord progression ever. What's this one? This isn't a good example. Minor chord progressions. No, this isn't helpful either. Basically, let's go back. Just popular chord progressions. Use one of these. And right here, what are the most common chord progressions? So right here, you guys see how it says right here, C to G to A little m. And what does anyone know what that little m means? It means minor. So A, if it just says A by itself, like here it just says C, that means C major. If it said C and a little m was after it, that means C minor. Basically, as a rule of thumb, happy songs are featuring major chords. Sad songs are featuring minor chords. And I can grab my guitar and show you guys what I mean. So this, guys, is an example. Here is an A major chord. Right, very happy sound. Here's an A minor chord. You hear that difference? Totally different feeling, but only one little note changed. So if I played like a song in all major chords, I'm going to do E major to A major to D major back to A major. If I did the minor version of that, so that was a very happy sound, right? Here's the minor version. So this is E minor to A minor to D minor. So there's the A major, minor. Big difference, right? So that's why this whole music theory thing, guys, it literally is what makes songs feel the way they do. So it's where you guys, your main job here, making a game soundtrack, is to match the feeling that you want your player to experience when they're playing the game, right? So a lot of you're probably going to want a little darker of a sound, but if it's just like a fun little 2D game, like in the style of Mario, make it sound happy, right? Anyways, point being, I can use this as a cheat sheet. So right here, it's saying, okay, the chord of C major. Again, if it's just C, it means major. I can now go to Google and type in C major chord notes. And literally, it will tell me right here. Or what's the C chord? Here we go. C, E, and G. It should be only 3 notes. So now I can go here to Ableton, double click here on this new instrument I have, and let's do it. Let's do, see this piano roll? Yeah. This now represents all the notes. And you guys can see how it just repeats. So when it says C3, as I go up it, look, it's going to C sharp, which is halfway between C and D, C, D, D sharp, E, F, and so it goes up until it gets to C again. But here's the difference. Here's this C, right? Here's the lower C. Here, it's the same note, it's just one's higher and one's lower, okay? And so different instruments will sound better in certain areas. So like if you guys chose like a bass instrument on here, obviously you'd want to scroll way down and find the low notes, right? But anyways, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make this song sound happy with this instrument, but let's do it. Again, on Google, I Googled C major chord notes, and it's telling me right here, I just kind of look down until I see the 3 notes, C, E, and G. So I'm going to double click here to draw in this note. If I want to make this note play longer, I just hover over the side of it and drag it out. And what did I say? E. So there's E right there. Double click. And what was the other one? And G. So let's see what this sounds like. You know what? This one's too slow. Because this ambient sound, it's too slow. You're not going to hear the change. So I'm going to do a more classic instrument. So let's go find like a bass. Kind of like this one. Let's click and drag. And so look, guys, I'm replacing this instrument, but the notes stayed there. So I didn't lose those notes, and now it's going to play this bass line instead of what we had before. You guys hear how that's a very happy, like, go-lucky sound, right? What if I wanted to do a C minor? Let's change this to C minor chord notes. And let's look here and see what it says. Right there, C minor chord consisting of C, E flat, and G. When you guys ever see E flat or E hashtag, the hashtag means E sharp, which is technically halfway up between E and F, okay? E flat means halfway down between what would be under E, D, right? So between D and E is E flat. What's confusing, it's also technically D sharp. Get it? Because it's the same thing. It's one's halfway up, one's halfway down from the other note. So that's the only confusing part with music theory at first for me. So E flat is the same thing as D sharp. Because if you guys are in Ableton, when you go to draw these notes in, you'll see the little hashtag, the sharp, on G right there. That means that'd be the same thing as A flat. But they don't list the flats. They just say the sharps or the hashtags. So let's change this. What was that note? E flat. So look, this E right here, we're just going to take it down one step. And now listen to the difference of this bass line, guys. Totally different, right? If I go back up, here's the happy one. Go back down. You guys see how different that feels? So typically, guys, most people like to stick to the minor chords because they just have a little more edge. But if you do want like a really happy, you know, song, that's, you guys know, just do major chords. So anyways, we've got that part drawn out. Now I'm going to keep it in minor. And let's go back and find one of those crazy ambient sounds. Oh, I like that. Click and drag to a new slot. And we know now, guys, that our song is in the key of C minor. And what that means is, if we go to Google and type in C minor scale notes, we now know all the different notes we can draw in, and that it will sound good with that chord. So again, it's almost like cheating. So now look right over here, guys, on the right, C minor. It tells me all these notes I can draw in, and it will sound good. So let's try and drag in, well, first of all, let's just do the C note. So let's double click on this, find a C note that we like, maybe a little bit lower. Oh, I like that. Let's click and draw this out. And let's play it. And if you want to change this bass note, guys, you can, like this last note. So you guys can see how you can experiment by clicking on these notes and going up or down, left or right. And also remember, to make the notes play for longer, you just drag the side of it out. If you wanted two notes playing together, you would have them stacked like this, okay? So for this, we got C note. What was the other thing it said? D. Let's draw in a D. I really don't like this bass line. It just sounds lame. I'm gonna delete. Oh, you can also, if you double click on a note, it deletes it. Maybe if I just want this one to play out for a while. Let's try this. And notice, guys, how I'm sticking to making my stuff line up with these main four lines, right? You guys see that? So if I play this now. I really don't like that bass line. It sounds awful. So again, if I don't like it, go back to instrument rack. Let's go to the bass category. Ooh, I like that. That's more of a video game sound. Kind of sounds like Blade Runner. So now I just drag it, replace this bass, and let's see what it sounds like now. Or not. Sounds a little bit better. Again, this is where you guys have to experiment with different instruments and different notes to find out what does sound good. I'm not super happy with this right now, but you can see how tweaking it, you can get what you want. So again, guys, to kind of go over it again, search up popular chord progressions to find out what chords to do. C major, G major, A minor. So if you see the little M, that means minor. And then you just basically Google that note. So type in C major chord notes, and it'll tell you, you kind of look through here and look for the 3 notes that consist of that, draw them in, and pretty much just experiment with these different instruments. I wish we had time. We have to get going here pretty quick. I would sit here and show you how to keep going, but you guys can see, look, you can add as many instruments. Hey, bring it back. I didn't say go back to your seats. You guys can see how you can bring in as many instruments as you need and just start stacking them, where you also can put different clips. So if this bass line, if I want to add a second bass line, look, I just double click in the second slot and draw in a different one. Because what you're going to do is your song plays, you're going to have it change from clip to clip. And so you can basically create parts of the song by adding multiple clips, multiple bass lines that all are in that C minor scale or whatever scale you guys choose, and pretty much start stacking them. We'll go over more detail next time we meet on this process, but do you guys have any quick questions that you can think of right now? Something that you need to know how to do? Good?
So, like, all the instruments are all the instruments on there?
Yeah, so again, instruments, instrument rack, and then you've got these different categories. Each category has a bunch of instruments that you can click on, and a lot of them you're gonna hate, but there are a few instruments you might be like, that kind of sounds cool. And remember, we're thinking video game soundtracks, so you're not necessarily making like a perfect hip-hop beat or whatever. You're making kind of a background song, right? So you don't want it to be too in your face probably, unless it's a really intense part of the game. And also, look, you guys have this over here where it says audio effects. These are effects that you can add to your instruments. So if I
so could you make it like a staticky one?
Yes, there actually is one. I think it's called oh, what's the word? Lo-fi, or oh man, or is it called vinyl? Audio effect rack. Vinyl distortion. This might be awful. Crack. So let's drag this onto this one. You guys hear that? So there's under audio effects, you guys are gonna really want to mess around a lot with audio effects. And if you want to toggle your effects on and off, see how down here it has this? There's also different settings, so I can turn down the crackle. Point is, there's a ton of audio effects that really will make your song sound totally different. And especially once you guys get your vocals recorded onto here, like for what the game characters are going to say, you can make their voices sound completely different from the original and actually, you know, have that in your game. So we'll get to that too, because the best part about Ableton, it's very easy to record with, okay? All right, guys, thanks.